Hey, you. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. Don't you dare be insulting these cheerleaders. Don't you ever dare insult every single cheerleader ever. You are a coward if you do. You insult one cheerleader or a dozen of these cheerleaders, you are a fucking coward if you do so. It's what happened. A Dallas Cowboys cheerleader claims she and her teammates were the target of obnoxious behavior by the Green Bay Packers players. The accusation came to light in a video by cheerleader Darian Lassiter. In her 5 years being an NFL cheerleader, she says she never experienced such disrespect from the other team players to the cheerleaders. She also pointed out the irony that it's in violation for players to taunt each other, but not cheerleaders. So, the question is, should there be a policy saying you shouldn't taunt players and cheerleaders at the same time? We'll take a look at this.
They're America's sweethearts, the legendary Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. Now there's a troubling claim that the cheerleaders were the target of obnoxious behavior on the field by players from the Green Bay Packers during last Sunday's playoff game. The accusation came to light in this TikTok video by cheerleader Darian Lassiter.
I have never experienced such disrespect from the other team's players to the cheerleaders in my 5 years as an NFL cheerleader. We would literally be minding our own business and the Packers just scored a touchdown. They would come up to us and start yelling at us. Like sometimes it was this close to our face.
Darian points to the irony that it's a violation for players to taunt each other, but not cheerleaders.
I feel like that's unsportsmanlike conduct, and it's so crazy how they can't do that to the Cowboys players or any other players, but they can do it to the cheerleaders and nothing's gonna happen. I'm rooting for every team but them now that the Cowboys are out.
We reached out to the Packers for comment but did not hear back.
Here's common sense for you. Let me pull out the drawer. I have a whistle. Here we go. 10th flag. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Cheerleaders. We play this. Or unsportsmanlike conduct. Player disqualified. Packers. Player disqualified. Common sense. I've said this often enough. You don't put your hands on a woman in anger. You certainly don't insult a cheerleader. Even an NFL cheerleader. Those were the legendary Dallas Cowboys. And you want to make an insult comment like that to a cheerleader? And if you ask me, yes, that is definitely unsportsmanlike conduct. Let's take a look at the comments that were on this video. If the cheerleaders felt violent, imagine how the Cowboy players felt. It would have been like, hey, your mama's so fat, when she gets on the elevator, it's going down. Then a Cowboy would be like, what you say about my cheerleader mama? What you say? Don't you dare be talking about my cheerleader's mama, I'm supposed to smack you in the face. Does it again. Your mama's so fat, you got a big horse in the polo shirt. That's it. Fight going on, player disqualified. Who would be the victim here? It wouldn't be the person who started this, the victim who's trying to defend the cheerleaders. That's how it all begins. It's the fact that the Packers players couldn't yell at the other team's players without being penalized. So if he goes up to a bunch of ladies instead. It's a sad day when you gotta have your cheerleaders trying to make you guys look like a victim even after you guys get your ass whooped. That should be easy though. Prove or disapprove all those cameras of the game. I think at most there's a tiny grain of truth to it. But for the most part, she's making way more out of it. To the point of dishonesty. This happening should be caught on video. No doubt. Exactly. If there was video evidence that it happened, then we would see. So, again.
We reached out to the Packers for comment but did not hear back.
And the Packers are like saying, nope, don't talk to the media, don't talk to anybody. What about the Cowboys? What do they have to say? Nothing was said and done. You have to realize, I know you don't never insult a woman. you don't ever insult a cheerleader. That is definitely unsportsmanlike conduct. We would do a whole hour about. Actually, we're going to devote the rest of this hour to unsportsmanlike conduct. A big issue going around in sports, which includes this and celebrating the end zone. I mean, Steve Harvey had a story, like he hates football. He hates football because he doesn't watch football because of those penalty flags. You show up in the end zone, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense disqualified. It's like, you know, like, nice job, Bobby, high five. We'll get to that in just a minute. But what's the common sense here? Common sense needs to tell you, do not insult the team. That includes the cheerleaders. Don't ever insult people, period. Don't insult the players. Don't ever insult cheerleaders. And that's insulting women right there. Don't you ever again insult a cheerleader. Yeah, I'm pointing at you, Packers. You better clean up your act next time. If you ever insult a cheerleader again, I'm coming for you. And I will come for you, and I will damn well talk about you on the next show. I'll be watching you. All right. How are those 5 guys doing after the 5 different products? Well, you're about to see what happened after 6 months. How did the 5 members do? Rob Staff will give us an update. Stay with us. If I were to wear a hat like this, would I become bald? That is totally untrue. Last week, we introduced you to 5 men who took a Dateline challenge back in 2004, trying 5 different techniques for growing hair, everything from surgery to a laser comb. But now you're about to see the extraordinary results right after 6 months. After those 6 months, which go into a year. Another 6 months happen. Did any of these men actually grow any hair? Here's Rob Stafford.
Meet Dateline's Follicle 5. There are proud volunteers who tried almost everything to try to stop one thing. They're thinning and ever-lessening heads of hair. For 12 months, our 5 men tried pills, surgery, a fish product, and even a laser to grow hair. Now that a year's passed, it's time to see who has sprouted new growth and who is not.
I can feel some of my hair standing up.
Our 5 men, all friends from the Miami area, range in age from their late 30s to our oldest volunteer, who's in his mid-50s.
We're going to continue in that foreign policy.
Joe Fernandez is a social studies teacher at Miami Beach High School. When we met Joe a year earlier, he hoped growing new hair might end students' jokes about his diminishing mane.
Kids say it all the time. You have a comb over, it's getting real light through the forest there, and you can see right through your hair.
Joe tried a double punch approach, taking the only 2 FDA-approved drugs to grow hair: Propecia pills and minoxidil lotion.
Take 1 tablet by mouth each day.
He had high hopes that using 2 drugs at the same time would increase his chances to grow new hair. But like most drugs, there's a small chance of side effects. For Propecia, that includes possible decreased sex drive.
I'm a pretty feral person. Don't have any problems in that department, but let's see.
Hector Romero, who is then 38, is married with 2 children. He works for IBM in computer tech support. To him, losing hair is far worse than he ever expected.
Could you imagine if parts of your body just started falling off as you got older? You'd want to stop that. Something that you were used to for X amount of years, and then little by little you're losing it.
Hector used Viviscal, a pill advertised on the internet as a nutritional fish product from Finland. Ads showed dramatic before and after photos and testimonials from people who say it grows hair.
Viviscal provides nutritional support for the hair and follicle. Tastes a little fishy.
Hector, who sits in the back of training classes at his job so no one notices his bald spot, was not sure the Viviscal would work.
How much hair do you expect to grow?
Do I expect to grow or do I want to grow?
Want first.
Want? I want a lot of hair. Expect? Not much. But I would love to be surprised.
Richard and George Suero are identical twins, but they have even more in common than their looks.
Hey, Dr. Burger. George.
45 years old, they both work as pharmaceutical salesmen
As far as, they've been on Prozac.
and drive the same type of car. George is married with 2 kids, but his brother Richard is divorced.
Water.
Richard is back on the dating scene, which only compounds his stress over his thinning hair.
Self-esteem is, you just really have to build yourself up a lot more. So you have to try harder, and especially when you look at a bar, you see all these nice-looking people, men and women, and they have more hair than you.
Richard tried Propecia, and when he first started taking the pills, he had high hopes.
I expect it's going to work well.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic are you that you're going to grow some more hair?
I would say 8.
Meanwhile, his brother George used something totally different from everyone else, a device called the laser comb.
The HairMax Laser Comb is a breakthrough in hair care.
The product emits an actual low-level laser beam that the company says safely stimulates hair follicles.
Recommend using the laser comb for a minimum of 5 minutes, 3 times a week. Feels good though, and I don't feel anything kind of strange.
At the start of this project, George was confident the comb would work.
I really expect some good results out of that. I'll tell you why. Because I have a friend that tried it, and I think just in the little time that I've seen him, from baseline to now, my gosh, what a difference.
Paul Silva works for a title insurance company. At 41, he felt people would stare at his bald spots, so he almost always covers his head with one of the dozens of caps he owns. His wife, Linda, wishes he wasn't so obsessed with his thinning hair.
He doesn't believe when I say I think he's attractive and he's my Bruce Willis.
Paul was hoping new hair could help him relive his teenage years, when he had hair almost as long as the singers in his then favorite rock group, Quiet Riot.
I'm looking forward to that headbanger's ball so I can swing my hair around. Bang your head. It's been a while since I've been able to flip my hair one way or the other, so.
Paul was about to undergo the most intrusive and dangerous treatment, a hair transplant, yet he was thrilled.
I actually kind of feel like I've won the lotto. I mean, you think of all the people who want to have this done. And I got picked.
And Dateline paid for the procedure, as we did for all of the treatments. Still, many people might have second thoughts about a transplant because of images like these. But Dr. Alan Bauman, a hair transplant surgeon from Boca Raton, says medical advances have eliminated that plug look of years ago.
Today's hair transplants are 100% undetectable. There may be people that you know who have had hair transplantation and you are unable to tell.
Good morning, Paul. Welcome.
But to get that look takes a lot of money and man hours. Plus, there are risks.
Infection, blood loss.
As Paul quickly realizes when he arrives at Dr. Bauman's office for his operation.
Transient swelling, bruising.
The car's right outside if you want to turn around.
Tell them to go ahead and go home. And I'm going through it.
As Paul enters the operating room, he'll need to get comfortable because he won't leave for hours.
Put your hair up.
The donor hair comes from the back of his head.
We're going to start the anesthesia, okay?
After numbing his head, the doctor removes a small section of scalp. Technicians then cut out individual hairs from that donor's scalp.
What I'm doing right now is I'm making the tiny incisions, the sites, where the hair is going to be implanted into the skin.
The doctor and his team replant about 1,900 individual hair follicles. 7 hours later, the process is complete. And then a first look.
That's a lot of grass. Wow. If that fills in. You weren't kidding, Doc. I want to look like you.
Dr. Bauman instructed Paul to also start using Propecia and minoxidil to help keep his old hair from falling out. But what will Paul's transplants look like in 1 year's time? Will he fulfill his dream of getting back the rock and roll hair he wants? Will any of our men see the results they were hoping for? And is it worth the cost? When we return, we'll see what happened to each of our follicle 5.
Now that you've seen the results, seen these products, what's going to happen now after that 1 year? Remember, we're checking back in 6 months, but now what's going to happen after that? Another 6 months? When we return, I'll look at what happened after the products. Did any of them actually grow hair, or did they not grow any hair? Stay with us. So which of the 5 products grow hair best or lose any hair? We're going to find out as we check back in with the Follicle 5 from Miami. And the results may surprise people. Once again, Rob Stafford.
The results are in. Our fearless and formidable Follicle 5 volunteers spent 12 months trying different, even unusual treatments to try to grow hair. These men spent years worrying about their thinning hair, and when we first met them, they told us about some outrageous treatments they tried in the past. Richard is our single twin.
Yes, they told me to put a pantyhose on your head.
You put pantyhose on your
Pantyhose on my and I knotted it right up, and okay.
You have a picture of that?
I'd like to see that.
So obviously I was very desperate at this point.
Our volunteer Paul, who wants hair again like a rock star, once took some unsolicited advice from a stranger at a shopping mall.
He said, you know what you need to do is you need to buy a horsehair brush and brush your hair. And I'm like, excuse me, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He goes, the bald spot.
So did you buy it?
Yes, I did. I will confess, I was there every night, 200 this way and 100 that way.
So what causes most hair loss? Genetics, experts say. Sensitivity to the hormone DHT is the culprit. This byproduct of testosterone interacts with hair follicles, causing them to shrink. The hair then thins and can fall out. Eventually, follicles can stop growing hair completely.
It's a problem that affects all races and women. The American Academy of Dermatology estimates that nearly 40% of men and women have visible signs of hair loss by age 40.
Good morning, Dr. Romanelli.
Now, to judge whether or not our volunteers actually grew any hair, we had Dr. Paolo Romanelli examine each of our men at the start of this project.
Some substantial results.
6 months later.
Welcome back.
And then after 1 year. Professor with the University of Miami's Dermatology Department, Dr. Romanelli will later give his opinion on how well these purported hair-growing treatments actually worked. Meanwhile, our volunteers told us they use their products religiously. And now, 12 months later, it's time to see how everyone did.
By the way,
Joe is our teacher in his mid-50s who sometimes gets teased by his students over his thinning hair. He used 2 drugs at the same time, Propecia pills and minoxidil lotion. Occasionally, he found the lotion to be messy.
At times you don't want to have that greasy look, and at times I don't want to have it spill onto my pillow.
So there's quite a bit of rigmarole around all the application.
Right.
And with Propecia, a small percentage of users have sexual side effects.
6 months ago, you didn't have any of those side effects, any problems?
No side effects at all. My friends tease me all the time because they use the word virile. Okay,
Here's how Joe looked at the beginning of our project. Here he is at 6 months and at 1 year. The cost of both drugs is about $900 a year. And Dr. Romanelli was surprised by Joe's results.
Joe did quite well in the first 6 months, and I like to say remarkably well in a year time. What I saw on Joe was the hair much fuller, thicker. Propecia usually doesn't work that well on people that are over 50.
Even though the doctor thought Joe had good hair growth and would be pleased, Joe came to a different conclusion after completing this year-long project.
Is it worth it?
I don't think so. I'm a
no frills kind of guy. You know, if I go bald, I'm go bald.
Hector is our computer technician. He'd often sit in the back of training classes so people wouldn't see his bald spot. He used the fish extract product from Finland called Viviscal. Here is Hector at the beginning of our project, at 6 months, and 1 year later. The cost for Viviscal is about $660 a year.
What kind of progress do you think you've made?
I don't think I've gained any hair, but I don't think I've lost any hair. I think I've just maintained what I had to begin with.
Dr. Romanelli agrees.
Hector, I didn't see any major growth this time. At the same time, I didn't see any major hair loss. I think it's quite stable.
But Hector also had a major change of opinion about his hair. He felt just being a part of this Dateline project gave him a whole new outlook on hair loss.
Are you still sitting in the back of the room when you go to
No.
work at those training classes worried that people are going to see that bald spot?
No, this whole thing here has changed my perspective, and I'm a lot less conscious of, you know, the baldness. Just sitting here with these guys and talking about it, it was kind of like therapy.
George, our twin who is married, used the laser comb. It's a device that emits a low-level laser that's supposed to stimulate new hair growth. This is George at the start of our project, at 6 months, and after 12 months of using the $700 comb.
I've noticed no hair loss in the sink anymore since I've been using it.
Do you think you've grown any new hair?
I think I have, but then again, I want to wait till the results tell me for sure.
Welcome back.
So you're gonna let me know what's going on, huh?
George, I definitely saw some new hair on the top of his head, right here, but not much on the two temporal areas.
George is thrilled to hear the doctor's opinion.
I was cautiously optimistic, you know, but really now I can say that that cautiousness can go away.
As for his single brother Richard, he tried Propecia, which costs about $600 a year. This is Richard when we first met him. Here he is at 6 months, and after 12 months of using this FDA-approved drug.
Richard, you've been taking Propecia for a year. How do you think you've done?
Actually, I felt very confident at the beginning. The first 2-3 months, I saw like some little birth growth there, little spuds coming out, you know, like a little cactus. And then suddenly, then I didn't see it anymore.
But Dr. Romanelli feels Richard actually grew more hair over the last 6 months than he did in the first 6 months of using Propecia.
Richard did quite well. Richard, same as his brother, grew hair mainly on the top of his head.
As for Paul, who wanted to have hair as long as a rock star, this is how he looked before he had his hair transplant surgery. This is him after 6 months, and here he is after 1 year. Paul also used minoxidil and Propecia. Dr. Romanelli thinks overall he had the best results.
Paul had incredible results, definitely the best of the 5. He had a lot of hair growth and very good success.
But hair transplant surgery comes at a steep price. The cost for Paul's operation, $10,000.
$10,000 for the hair transplant. Is that worth it? In my case, I would say yes. I mean, in self-esteem and the way that I feel, I actually feel like, you know, hey, I am younger, I am retaining it, I am still an active, vibrant person. Now that I have hair, I can honestly tell you, I go out a lot now without my hats. I don't have one in arm's reach all the time anymore.
You might be surprised, but Dr. Romanelli says that in our unscientific project, all 5 of our volunteers had positive results. Either they stopped losing hair or grew more hair. The doctor adds that's a much better result than would be expected from the general population.
Who's going to continue using their product? Joe?
I think I would probably say no. I just want to age gracefully. I teach high school, and I could care less of my students, okay, care if I have hair or not.
$700 a year to continue the Viviscal, are you going to do it?
Probably, without having expectations of growing hair, yeah.
Richard, are you going to keep going with the Propecia?
No, I'm going to save my lucky pennies. When it gets to that point, I'm going to look at Paul and say, you know, I'm going to get the transplant.
You want more?
I want more.
And Richard's twin brother George says he's going to continue to use his laser comb, but he's going to try something else too.
What would happen if I took that laser comb and then combined it with Richard's Propecia that now he doesn't want? So I might kind of steal some of that from him and do my own trial.
Paul, are you going to do another transplant?
Yes. You're hooked. I'm filling the stadium. Doors are closed. Need to get everybody seated now.
The headbanger?
Yeah. Does it move here? I'll be very happy going to the headbangers ball and not swinging my hair around.
The manufacturers of these products generally agree that people in the early stages of hair loss can usually expect the best results. And the manufacturer of minoxidil says its product grows hair on the top of a user's head, not the front. No matter, after 12 months, our follicle 5 have either all gained new hair or maybe gained some new wisdom.
Hector, the moral of the story is what?
Bald is beautiful.
Earlier this month, our volunteer, Paul Silva, went ahead and had another hair transplant. He's thrilled with gaining more hair, but this time he had to pay the tab. To learn more about hair loss treatments, log on to our website. The address is dateline.msnbc.com.
Very super. So, yeah, like he said, the moral of the story is bald is beautiful. That's how it is. Whether you lose hair or not, bald is beautiful, and all women love bald hair. Ain't no common sense to fill in. Coming out next, unsportsmanlike conduct. Earlier, we talked about cheerleaders being insulted, but we're also going to deal with unsportsmanlike conduct. We're going to hear from Leslie Stahl's report in 60 Minutes when we come back. Stay with us. At the beginning of the broadcast, we focused in on cheerleaders that are being insulted by the Packers football team, which is a great example of unsportsmanlike conduct. Let's look at some other examples of unsportsmanlike conduct. It can include verbal abuse, taunting, punching, kicking an opponent, removing your helmet in celebration, excessive celebration following a significant play, feigning injury, verbal abuse to officials, prolonged and permitted celebrations by players, calling 2 consecutive timeouts, fighting/physical altercations, and moral decisions that can go against the league rules or endanger the safety of any individuals. It can be verbal, written, physical, or emotional. And here are the terrible examples that you may see. Brazilian coach goes limp wristed on rampage. This happened back in 2006. Coach Preto Stanley took the figurative idea of sportsmanship to the woodshed 2006 when he charged into the field and started getting physical with both players. Next, Steve Blake and John Gilchrist throw down. Hot teammate on teammate action. This was years ago. In a video, Blake and teammate John get into it at each other after practice until Blake snaps and swings at the head. Luis Adriano's fair play failure. The striker was punished by UFA and with a 1-game suspension for his actions. Karen Butler gives them the old fake high five. The last seconds of the fourth quarter are winding down, and Carla Butler wants to congratulate a good game. TJ Lang gets popped in the pouch. Robinson was caught on camera delivering a nasty kick stab in the groin of the Packers' TJ Lang in 2011. Marshall Henderson, big two or biggest. Albert Haynesworth has fought and he can't get up. Dennis Rodman gives the photographer a boot. Tom Brady goes kung fu. Marty Mascoli. Pedro Martinez chucks Don Zimmer. Korean striker scores injured goalie. Bulgarian Braun Falcon punches BSU player back in the future. Tony Schaefer's abhorrent flop attempt. Ben Blood's handshake line punch. Sean Avery creates the Avery rule. Deadline arrest unleashes the wet willy. New Mexico soccer player grips it then rips it. Mike Tyson chomps on Evander Holyfield. This is the one that everybody was talking about. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. The Sus Stomp, the Nancy Kerrigan, Tanya Harding affair. Dee Johnson does the Plexico. Arkansas player dangerous hit on punt returner. Roman Wanaski spitballs with J.J. Stokes. And Hungarian ball player smashes referee's face. But the biggest one ever everybody was talking about was Mike Tyson. When he bit the ear off. That's what everybody was talking about. And in the press conference, he talked to Stonefield. We're going to save that. We're not going to talk about that because I didn't want this to be too long. What I really wanted to do was just raise some common sense, telling y'all, do not do those things. Follow the rules of unsportsmanlike. Follow the rules and show sportsmanship. Don't boo or cheer. You should only cheer for your officials. Don't boo or criticize. Those are things. And the insulting cheerleaders, they're part of the team. They should be disqualified. Not the cheerleaders. The team that the Green Bay Packers should be suspended 1-2 games for insulting the cheerleaders. You may think that's cold, but I say that's unsportsmanlike conduct. I'll be guys off for a second. Believe me, I know a lot about unsportsmanlike conduct. Even when you're having a food fight. People should think before they act. That's just the simple common sense perspective. If you're crying out loud, you need to know all about what you need to do in order to prevent this from happening again. Well, there is now a truancy crisis that is happening in all the American classrooms. And as you're about to see help, there could be some help for all students who are truant. Here's Byron Pitts.
Hartford, Connecticut, called the insurance capital of the world. World-class private schools to match. That's one Hartford. We rode around the other. Our tour guide, a native son, a product of Hartford Public Schools.
So this is a ride-along? This is when we take people out in the community to show them kind of like what we do? But normally, for me, this is me doing street engagement.
Street engagement?
Yeah. So normally I would drive through the neighborhoods, find young people, engage them in conversation.
At age 49, Diego Lopez bears the scars of his schooling.
What happened to your finger?
Oh, so I was shot.
You were shot?
Yeah, I'm a 4-time gunshot victim.
Where?
All over my body.
Be specific.
Like I was shot in the stomach, the chest, back, lower extremities, blew my finger off, the arm. It's like 9 bullet holes.
A 9th grade dropout, a former member of the Latin Kings, Lopez spent 10 years in a Connecticut state prison. He changed and became a counselor. Today, with one daughter in college, another who will attend soon, he's focused on helping children. The hard streets of Hartford, his office.
We're in what you describe as the trenches.
We're in the trenches. We at risk.
But yet you show up here, I don't see security, I don't see a weapon, I don't see Kevlar vest. I mean, you're doing in some way what the police do.
100%. Yeah.
Diego works with teenagers on the shy side of success.
What's up, man? Byron Pitts, how you doing?
Many of them high school dropouts, like Amanda.
I was a junior when I dropped.
How long ago was that? So you dropped out in the 11th grade. May I ask why?
It was COVID.
COVID, oh I see.
I thought it was more needed.
Did school give up on you or did you give up on school?
It was kind of both.
All right. Thank you very much.
Maybe.
Sure. Thank you.
How do you tell someone that education is important when they're worried about getting killed or gang violence and all this other stuff that's going on in their life? And we expect our children to learn when they don't even know if they're going to live.
So as you see it, what's broken in schools?
I don't think, our kids think education is as important as it was before. I think our schools are just straight up just failing our kids.
Those are hard truths in Hartford. In cities and poor communities across America, many desperate children feel like no one cares if they're in school, so they stop going.
Am I even working hard enough? Should I just give up?
I wouldn't be as motivated as I was before, and I would start skipping.
Going to school started to become a big struggle for me when I started to struggle with my mental health.
Children reaching a breaking point. Since the pandemic, students have disappeared from schools in alarming numbers. Over a quarter of all U.S. students, K through 12, miss 10% or more of school. They're considered chronically absent.
The education system is working for some and not for others. And COVID-19 really, I think, exacerbated a lot of the challenges that we saw around educational inequality and disparate outcomes among different groups of children.
In our nation's capital, 48% of students are chronically absent. In California, 30%. Connecticut, 24%. Educators feel the burden.
I ask this question respectfully. Is the system broken?
We in schools are tasked with solving for a lot.
The fight for the future of America's children is at a crisis point. In 2021, there were 2 million dropouts.
We're losing way too many children. They're either not showing up or they're leaving early and really not having any opportunities beyond that.
Nationwide, for millions of students, a typical school day is filled with too many obstacles. From issues with transportation, caring for loved ones, to depression and anxiety. Students are missing school.
The education system is not working for Black and African American students. It's not working for students who may speak a language other than English. It's not working for students with disabilities. It's not working for students who live in poverty. And it's not working for students who don't have an advocate who can make sure that their needs are being met.
Every day, these Compass Peace Builders, as they're called, go out into Hartford.
I have a couple home visits.
Meeting young people where they are.
A youth in the hospital and then a mom.
Offering job training, providing basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, and friendship.
When we come back, you're going to hear from this program and hear about what they're doing to combat these young kids and to get them back in school. Stay with us. Truancy is long to blame for kids' education. And finding the right programs is a struggling challenge in finding the right organizations. Truancy Court is a way to help out children. It's a way to help out children who have combined a lot of 7 or more unexcused days of school. Now, state laws may vary different from different, but for one program you're about to see, it can really help make a difference. Once again, here's Byron Pitts.
Basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, and friendship.
So the question of the day today is, what is an obstacle that keeps youth from going to school or causes them to drop out of school?
I think one of the biggest issues is trauma. We live in a traumatized environment and our schools are not trauma informed.
Compass has been working with 17-year-old Raheen Hodges for a year.
Are you in school?
No, not right now.
You dropped out.
Yeah.
Why?
To be honest, when I came back from COVID, it's just like felt like school wasn't like motivating me.
Were you absent a lot?
No.
No, you would go
I
every
would
day.
show up, but I just wouldn't like participate.
What kind of grades did you get when you were in school?
Like C's, D's, and like when I did try, I would get like B's and A's. I feel like they gave up on me because like when I would try, I just wouldn't get the help that I like needed.
Give me an example.
Like they would make me feel like I was stupid. Like I would ask for help, and like they would make me feel like I was just like dumb or something.
This time last year, Genesis Luciano had also dropped out of school.
Why'd you drop out?
I was homeless. So it was just a lot of stuff going on for me, and I just said I didn't want to do it anymore.
How old were you?
I was 17.
So were you a good student in a bad situation, or were you in a bad situation and not really that good a student?
I was a good student in a bad situation.
And do you think the school didn't see you?
The school didn't really understand me as much.
I think that it is difficult, unfortunately, right now to find joy in school. Schools have become places where teachers are stressed, are overworked, and for students, some of the content is increasingly irrelevant to them. We are now at a moment where we need to determine what the future of public education is in this country.
In many parts of the country, programs are being tested to help students like Genesis, strategies to improve grades and attendance. From door knocking in Los Angeles,
We knocked on 8,000 doors.
to signs reminding kids to come to school in Alabama,
Good morning.
to a truancy court in Nashville that tries to find solutions for each family based on the obstacles they face.
You want to try to encourage them to tell their story of what's going on.
I think that although local communities are doing a lot to increase student attendance, we really have to spend more time understanding the root causes.
A problem that affects all ages. Truancy can start young.
One thing that we found early on was our kindergartners had a 25% chronic absenteeism. That was my first, wake-up call.
No one knows the stats or the stories better than Leslie Torres Rodriguez, superintendent of Hartford Public Schools, born in Puerto Rico, raised in Hartford. She is a product of the system she now runs.
A 5-year-old cannot get to school on their own. We knew that there were familial challenges, housing insecurity, unemployment, health inequities that exist.
One school in her district, Michael D. Fox Elementary, is hoping to solve that problem by bringing health care straight to its students, like this school medical clinic, equipped with a full dentist chair, even staffed by a physician's assistant.
School-based health centers most definitely work. If a child goes to an appointment outside of school, they miss an entire day or a half day. If they come here for the same complaint, they're out of class for 30 minutes.
Because of this clinic, MD Fox says they've seen an improvement in attendance.
If we can keep them healthy, we've got them at the best of their ability to be able to focus on reading or learning math or whatever it might be.
Down the hall, there's a food pantry.
A lot of the systemic challenges that happen, all of that plays out in the classroom, in our schools. And we have to solve for it. We're not going to turn our back on our students.
So in that regard, what grade would you give yourself?
I could say we can always do more.
I need a grade.
Oh my goodness, you're going to put me on the spot. We're doing an average job.
Your voice said average job. Your eyes said...
It's better. It's better.
Genesis Luciano had her fair share of those obstacles. Now she's enrolled in an alternative school in Hartford. During our interview, Genesis's peace builder, Haley Jones, grew emotional as she quietly watched.
Y'all crying over there?
We asked her to join us.
She's literally crying.
Why are you crying?
Because this is years, man. This is years. This is like your heart. This isn't about money. This is an investment of what I know. I poured everything that I could into her.
Why give so much?
Because I owe my community that.
Honestly, it's so real though. This job is like, I would do this for free. I say it all the time.
Jones says she could have been like Genesis, but in her words, quote, I was just born in the right zip code.
It's just not her fault. It's just not her fault. And I just The world needs Jen here. The world needs Jen out of prison. The world needs Jen to become a mother. The world needs to hear from Jen. And there's many more kids just like her. Oh, I can't believe you got me crying. I can't believe it.
Where might you be without her?
I don't know. I would have been outside. I would have been in jail. I would have been nothing.
In communities large and small like Hartford, there are countless children without hope, without school systems that work. There are also adults who see them and their potential. Those adults are driven to act, often moved to tears.
When's the last time you cried?
I cry every day. I cry every day, man. I cry every day. I cry because I'm alive. I'm always thinking about the next day, about the next great thing.
When's the last time you cried?
Oh, yesterday. I see myself in our students regularly, and that gets to me. That gets to me.
Our thanks to the good people we met in Hartford and across the country. We found counselors and educators who pursue their professions like good parents. They show up every day, love their children hard, even when it's difficult.
And it can be very difficult. We have to solve problems. This report is very, very helpful. Truancy court is the way to combat. And what one guy did early in that report, you know what he did? He took them around the community saying, hey, you know, this is where you're going to be if you keep on skipping class. It's a teaching tool. You can say to yourself, well, I don't want to be like these people. I better start going to school every day, otherwise I could be like them. Truancy court, that's another way to put it at. Truancy court is a very big deal. And if we didn't have truancy, like I talked about before, let me play you what John Payton said in the truancy court back in 2015. Because they're saying like, well, we've heard from social media, we've heard from this, we heard from that.
Shed some light on what the new law actually says. This is all going to be against the child. Never sadly, and most interestingly, a lot of that is driven by funding. If the federal level doesn't have a requirement for a state to require their children to go to school, then the federal U.S. Department of Education won't fund the state of Texas's Department of Education.
That's one thing. Another thing, if we were to get rid of those truancy laws, if we got rid of those, what's going to happen is attendance is going to go down while juvenile delinquency goes up. What is juvenile delinquency? Juvenile delinquency is when a child under the age of 18 commits crimes. Shoplifting, assault, stealing, possession of drugs. The first offense is truancy. It gets bigger and bigger. Let me play you another clip from Melissa Buchanan, the family court judge in Horry County. Because in Horry County, it's a very big deal.
For a proof. Now, if the child is over the age of 12, adult to abide by the attendance order. It's excusable. I cannot get tell the court I can't get in school, then the court will take. Be careful with that. Bully to it because everyone child has acted because or anything that he is told to do. Then we can decide if you have the belief, judge who deals with you, I will point out to you as a judge who deals with juveniles. The studies have shown that failure to attend school, truancy, is a biggest indicator of future delinquent behavior, more so than race, sex, or socioeconomic status. Failure to go to school is a bigger indicator that your child will one day end back up in juvenile court doing something different, because almost every child I see in the juvenile court system, their first offense was truancy. Then it grows to things like shoplifting, then assault, then stealing, and it gets bigger and bigger. Possession of drugs, it gets bigger and bigger. So
it's bigger and bigger. The more child, and it's even bigger. If we don't send this child to school, then they're gonna, they just be sitting at home eating popcorn, hanging out with their friends, when in fact they're outside breaking into cars, breaking into houses, doing drugs, things of that nature, when they should be in school. Judge James Metz, who years ago, before the new law was actually put in place by 2015, he started throwing the book, he started throwing kids in jail, even parents, for 72 hours. That's a 3-day weekend in a jail. So you have to understand, parents, you need to start taking attendance very seriously. You need to start making sure your child goes to school every day, or otherwise you don't keep on doing this, you're going to wind up in truancy court, and you and your child, you may wind up in jail, and your child may end up in foster care, or you both could wind up in jail. The bottom line here is this: attendance matters. So the common sense perspective is this: if we got rid of the truancy laws and the requirement to go to school and make school optionary, juvenile delinquency would go up and attendance rates would go down. That's why we have juvenile detention centers, we have juvenile judges, we have truancy court. If we didn't have those things, then we would be sitting there scratching our heads saying, what can we do? That's why that law is put in place. That's why the federal government has made that law, for one reason: to keep kids out of the streets and into the classroom. There's nothing more you can learn in the streets than in the classroom. The best place for your child is in school all day, every day. And Texas, here in Texas, this is the only state that decriminalizes truancy. Because back in 2003, your child didn't go to school, he or she had to wear ankle bracelets and be sent to jail. Again, we all have to understand, we want our children to succeed. It's their future. Without a diploma, your child may not get a good job. Your child may not get a good job. Your child may not be a success. Some jobs may require a college diploma, college degree, but all jobs require you to get a high school diploma. If you don't have that, because that's the cause of truancy. We talked about 6 causes. So I recommend you start asking questions, looking up state laws, which we're going to do next. Stay with us, and then we're going to have a viral break. Welcome back. Here we are at this website. This is the whole website for the state of Texas. www.statutes.capital.texas.gov. Here, again, you click on codes. We're going to go to the family code. And then we're going to go to chapter 65 of the family code. This is all from 151.001 of the family code, because y'all got to start understanding all about truancy court. So let's go to 151.1001 real quick. Parent of the child's following rights and duties: physical possession, direct moral, right resident child legal action to make other decisions, parenting, involvement may use corporal punishment, all this. This is all under section 151.001 of the family code. To go out and retrieve you and bring you home. All this is fully reviewed. The duty of parent to support his or her child exists while the child is a minor and continues as long as the child fully enrolled in secondary school program leading to a high school diploma. parent who fails to discharge duty to support a liable person who receives necessary to whom is owned. Rights and duties. But let's go to chapter 65, which is truancy court proceedings. Because this is all from chapter 65. The parent of this. A truancy court may enforce the following orders. You can order the parent, child, or any court item, crown a child on the person to take particular action under section 65.105 subsection A. Order the child's parent or the person responsible for the child. And order the parent confinement in jail for maximum 3 days, maximum 40 hours community service, or confinement in community service. So those things have not changed and the orders can be put in place. That's the whole thing here. Now with just 4 minutes left, here's tonight's viral break.
Is a sign of being abused. If you're ever in a situation where you're being abused and you can't vote.
Here's you would ask
Hey
you.
Scott,
What's up?
will you ever cheat on my mom?
You know, never cheat on your mom. I'm 100% faithful.
What about Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds? Yes, I would.
Hey Scott,
What's up?
will you ever cheat on my mom?
You know, never.
I would never even do that. Wow, this is from the anxiety couple. Now imagine you having a candy store. Let's take a look at Lance Stewart. He decides that he wants to make a giant candy store in his house. Actually, we're gonna have that for you coming up on Monday. So here's a preview of the viral break. There's a sneak peek.
Oh my God!
You gonna see that preview? We're gonna have that for you coming up on Game Break Monday. So that's all for this edition of Game Break Monday. That's all for this edition of Game Break Saturday going to Sunday. We will see you again for Game Break Monday. For all of us here at YouTube, stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. Your body, your choice. No jaywalking. Good night.